morning, everyone. Welcome once again to the Aurum podcast, where we discuss everything that relates to HR and how to build winning teams. This Easter weekend, when we remember the tremendous events that took place 2,000 years ago for an eternal transformation of man. And here we are, we have the privilege of also coming to you to discuss issues regarding building winning teams. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria, and I'm so glad that you could join us. Now, today we are discussing the topic of training and development. This is the second part. We began last weekend with the same, where we began this whole process pretty well, and today we want to continue with the same. With me is a number of ladies. First and foremost is Madam Zipporah Kuria, our in-house lead consultant. Welcome, Zippy.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, viewers.
And also the lady I like calling the consultant for consultants, Madam Martha Thuku. She's a HR specialist. Martha, thank you very much again for joining us today.
Thank you, Anthony, and good morning, viewers, and wishing you a happy Easter, even as we celebrate this season. Thank you.
Awesome. And for the very first time, we are so glad to bring her on stage, our very own Aurum consultant, staff manager, consultant, working under Zippy. Her name is Dorin Wanja, a HR specialist. Welcome, Dorin.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. I'm glad and I'm honored to be here and on this amazing Easter weekend. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Dorin. Now, as you all know, the Aurum podcast is hosted by Aurum consultants and we are a HR and risk advisory company. We enable corporations, SMEs, and the rest to be able to get their HR function up and running and build winning teams. So, last week we talked about training and development being designed and to enhance employee skills, behaviors, and expertise by helping them learn new work techniques. This is geared towards increasing productivity and efficiency in the workplace. Last week, ladies, Zippy and Martha, we discussed a number of things. We had a very good discussion. In fact, we did like 45 minutes and we only covered two of the. We intended to cover a number of issues, but we only covered two. And it took us over 45 minutes. That tells you how interesting that discussion was. So, the last part, there was a question that there was something I wanted to bring in, but I never managed to do so. So today I've decided that I told Zippy this one. I'm going to prepare and bring it. I'm going to bring it so that we can continue with that conversation from there. So Zippy, let me start with you, and I will also get views from Martha and Doreen. So after discussing what we did, the question then comes: how do we determine the relevant trainings for employees? What's your view on the same?
Thank you, Anthony. And well, I'm glad to be here this happy morning. And if I remember what we were talking about last week, we were talking about how do we develop the culture of trainings in our organizations. Because unless we make it a culture, then it becomes very difficult to embrace training, to embrace learning and development. Because training is one aspect where the employer probably has to invest in this employee, but the learning and the development is an effort the employer has to make. The employer might pay for you all the money that is needed for you to be able to train, or they might provide the time for you to go and train. They might even bring in, the people who need to do the training. But the aspect of learning actually is the employee's responsibility. They need to embrace that they need to learn. They need to embrace that they need to learn and develop themselves. So just coming back to what you're asking about determining relevant trainings. One of the things I always keep on saying is we need first to understand the organization's objectives. What is the organization trying to achieve? So, beginning of every year or every financial period for different organizations, you will find perhaps you need to have certain objectives for the business. So the question becomes, how then do we achieve these objectives? Are our people well equipped to help us achieve the objectives we are setting? So I think that becomes very key in terms of seeing what relevant trainings do we need to, have our people go through so that they are well equipped to help us achieve the vision, the mission, or even the objectives we are set for the certain period. I think the other thing for us to know the relevance of trainings, we need to engage the employees themselves. We need to understand what exactly do they need, which areas are they lacking in. A lot of times, and I've seen this when you are doing performance management, you are able to actually pick up training needs based on how the employee is able to perform, based on the challenging areas you're able to pick up from the employees when you're viewing, or when you're reviewing their performance. You are able to actually see areas of need. And sometimes the employees sometimes might not even see it. They are not able to probably perform, and they cannot be able to just join the dots and understand where's the issue here. So sometimes you actually realize it's a training need when you see an employee not performing in a certain area. So when you do those performance evaluations, you engage the employee to see what they need. Of course, the other thing is also to engage the managers. Now, when a manager has a team, they need to drive their team towards achieving a certain objective. So when you engage the manager, you are also able to pick out, do they have a team that is well equipped? Do they need any kind of support? And this is where HR comes in and say, how can we support you as HR? Because our role is to support you to make sure you're achieving your objectives as a department. So I think those are a few things we can be able to do to just be able to see what do we need to do to make sure we are training and we are giving the relevant trainings. And I know Martha and Dorin, looks like we've lost Dorin. They have a lot to add into what I'm saying.
Yes, true, true. Thank you, Zippy. Yeah, you brought a few issues there, which we'll see. We will, fafanua zaidi as we go. Martha, what's your take on the need, on how to determine the relevant trainings for staff?
Okay, I agree totally with Zippy. We normally call it doing a training needs analysis. And this is where you check the positions you have currently and the skills that are within the organization. And then now you are able to see the skills gap. So if you have these positions and like where I work, we for every position or for every JD, there's really the skills required for that position.
Yes.
And I could be the job holder. And does that job holder have all those skills? So there's that, and you can do various things to, once you have identified those, you can do various things to try and mitigate that. And we talked about them last week. We talked about their own job training. We talked about even sponsoring them for trainings outside. We talked about coaching and mentoring. We talked many things. So there is that. And then there is also the, you know, when you have your strategic plan, you have a 5 year or 10 years, you also want to project and see that even in 5 years, what kind of staffing we will need, what then are the skills that we will need for future. So you're not
Yes.
just planning for now, you're planning for future. Like my previous employer used to be very proactive on that, and you'll find that you'll know the people who are really being equipped for leadership positions. So you'll find that they are even being trained on leadership skills. In the banking industry where I worked, we had a category of people called management trainees. Now these management trainees were like a fast track kind of employees who are really geared to promotions and succession plannings in higher positions. So now they never used to go the normal way of how the progressions in career. This year you are this. So they used to do kind of a fast track training where this person learns everything about the banking within a short period of time. And they are exposed to various trainings. Those used to be very structured. So is that category because these people have been employed for this particular fast track. So even their trainings are determined because then the bank would know what they want them to do. I'm sure, Tony, you are one of those fast track.
I wish. Oh, I wish.
In the bank. So
I wish.
you identify based on the need. So we like in the bank, they knew by the time this person is clocking 3 years, they can take up a management role.
Yes.
So when they're coming in, they are really like junior managers, then they can go to managers, then they can grow. So at no point was there a gap in the bank for people to feel, because at the same time when we were coming in, there was also this generational kind of mix in the organization. So there is the youth, there are the mid, and then there are the old people, and then there was those days people never used to resign, so there was a retirement.
Yeah.
You used to enter the bank when you were 22, 24, and then you retire at, was it 55?
Yes.
Something like that, or 60.
Yes.
So the bank used to know how many who are going to 60 within the next few years.
Yes.
And so there was that plan that even as they go, there will be people to replace them. So the trainings will be arranged in that kind of manner. So that's how you identify how you do your trainings, based A on the need, and B, as ZP said, as the work I'm doing and my boss is doing performance appraisal, he can see they can see the skill gaps. And that's how then you also come up with your training needs analysis, and you are able to schedule the trainings as specific for the people based on the position. I want to let Dorin add more to that. Thank you very much.
Wow, Martha, you have really brought it very nicely. Issues of planning, because beyond just training, you've enabled us to see from, apart from the relevancy of training for the employees, you've also brought issues of corporate planning, issues of how to plan for your employees and how they'll come in, and how to progressively cover positions of experienced people who are probably leaving, who are retiring, and all those kind of things. And that's a really wide topic. Now, Doreen,
Yes, Mr. Korea.
from your experience, when we talk about determining relevance of training, what has been your experience from your station where you've been?
Okay, so from my years of experience, I've had to do a lot of trial and error, but the most consistent thing that has been identified, or that I have identified to determine the relevant trainings for employees. As Martha has put it, the most crucial thing is to do a training needs analysis. You can't just wake up and train people blindly. You can't just wake up and train staff blindly. You need to look at the knowledge, the skills and abilities of the people in your team to be able to determine the type of training, and to be able to determine that training that needs to be done to move your company towards your objectives.
Yes.
And the training needs analysis has a couple of steps or procedures that I usually follow as a specialist. And the first thing is to determine what end result or what goal do I need to achieve with this particular training. What is the objective? Am I training people on first aid so that in case of an emergency, they're able to handle and tackle themselves? Am I training people so that I utilize it as an employer? Am I training people so that they utilize it within the institution or outside wherever they will go? After that, I identify the knowledge and abilities that they have. To
Okay.
what extent do they have? To what extent of knowledge do they have? Am I building upwards or am I concentrating on a particular field? Yes. After that, I evaluate the resources that are present. At the beginning of this podcast, Zipporah mentioned that if we are to conduct a training, what resources do we use? Do we have a trainer in-house or do we need to get a trainer externally? Yeah. And then after now the whole training process is complete, now you match it to the needs that the organization or me as a HR specialist I want to be met. And then after that, now I do somehow like a 360-degree feedback. Was the training effective? If it was not effective, what gaps have I not met that I need to meet in the next training? Yeah.
Wow. You really are a HR specialist. You have broken it down nicely. You've broken it down, and those are the kind of people we have here at Aurum Consultants. People who at the sharp end of implementation, and Dorin, you've done brilliantly. Thank you for that, because you have basically, and what Zippy and Martha have said, you've basically now brought it further, because Zippy talked about the company objectives, what is it that the company wants to achieve. So now you base your training on that. Okay, we need our people trained in this and this and this. And then also the issues of the capability of the employees themselves. You want to put somebody as the way Dorin have said, to be the head of taking care of safety and risk. Do they have the qualifications to do it? We have a company objectives of maintaining safety and health in the workplace. So you've appointed Anthony to be the one heading head and safety, probably have the necessary academic qualifications, but to have the training to head the same. You have training specific for the company to be able to do that. And therefore, you've talked about ZP, you've talked about training analysis of the needs of the client. Martha, you've also brought up a number of these things. And indeed, to our viewers and our listeners, this is how we are able, as from the perspective of HR, this is how training analysis is done, both from a company perspective and from the employee perspective. Because even if today, and Martha, I like the example you gave of trainee managers, management trainees. These are people who came with very impressive academic qualifications, either straight from high school or they come straight from college. They not only displayed academic aptitude, but very high superior intelligence. But they still needed to be trained. They have joined an institution. They have all the theoretical financial knowledge, but they need to be custom fit for a company like Aurum Consultants. And therefore, the training needs to take place to fashion them to be able to custom fit for the company. Now, to our viewers and listeners, if you're here and you want to send a question, you have a question, you've liked what we're doing, kindly send us a comment. We are live on LinkedIn, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can send a comment. You can send, complimentary. You may have a comment that you'd like to send. Kindly send it, and would love to engage with you as we go. So that now brings me to another thought. Okay, now the question is, what do we need to do to improve that employee learning and growth? We have identified these are our objectives as a company. We have discovered that we need to train this staff on certain areas. But then, what do we need to do to improve the same on the learning and growth? Zippy, let me rope you in on this one for that particular matter.
I was hoping you're throwing that to Martha.
Yes, the consultant of a consultant comes in after we have spoken.
Or she comes to validate what I have said. Okay, I get it. So, I'm just thinking about that. And how do we, what is the question again? How do we improve learning and growth?
What do we need to do to improve learning and growth? Yes.
I think one of the things, I'm just thinking about it from a leadership perspective, what I need to do to improve learning and growth for my team. And one of the things I'm thinking is career mapping for my team. A lot of times, I think we bring in people to the organization and we don't create a pathway for them to grow. So what happens is people feel trapped. And I've seen a lot of times when I'm doing interviews, you ask someone, why are you wanting to leave your current job? And they say they're looking for another challenge, or they're looking for, career growth. And the question, and especially if it's an organization that looks like it's a big organization, maybe their structures, I always wonder, are you telling me there are no opportunities for growth? So I think from an HR perspective, we need to be very deliberate in creating or helping our employees to create or map out their career path or their career growth within the organization. And that means we need to start having those conversations. We need to communicate. This is the growth prospects of the organization. This is where we are going. This is the opportunities we are seeing coming up. So as an employee, how are you preparing yourself to actually take up these opportunities? And I just like sharing examples, because this is something I always relate to my team. This is where we are going. I always make this joke, and it's not a joke, it's really the reality of where I want to be. I don't want to be leading this organization in another 5 years. I don't want to be the CEO. I want to be doing other things. I want to, I probably want to go and start another, business out there, or maybe just go play golf, or I know. And I'm thinking someone will need to step in and fill in those shoes. So the question is, am I deliberate in communicating that message to the people I am leading? Am I helping them in terms of mentorship and coaching to actually start preparing themselves to fit in into those shoes? And it may not be necessarily the CEO's role. It might be the next, bigger role that is just above their pay grade. How are we preparing them? So I think number one, we need to look at mapping out our employees' career path and be very deliberate about that, so that they can be able to see, if I do this, this is where I'm able to go. And when you start seeing the position you need or you're eyeing, then now as an employee, you'll start asking yourself the question, am I ready for this? What do I need to actually do to ready myself to take up these responsibilities? And of course, the issue of learning and growth comes in. Do I need to go back to college? Perhaps yes. Do I need to do some leadership trainings? So you start asking yourselves those questions as a leader and also as a person who is being led. You start asking those questions of what you need to do. And I think this starts creating that culture and improving, how we need to learn and grow as individuals. Of course, the other thing is giving feedback. I've talked about performance management earlier. And sometimes I think, and I don't know why, there had been, maybe in the past, maybe now things are changing. But in the past, when performance and management comes in, people tend to want to run away from it, because people feel this is something that is brought and it puts them in a corner, and it's not a tool that is used to actually improve their performance. So I think in terms of giving employees feedback, it's very critical. How do we give employees feedback? How do we give them not just feedback, but constructive feedback? And I always say this to people in leadership or who have leadership opportunities. Don't just give feedback that is not going to be helpful to the person you are leading. If you're going to give feedback in a constructive way. Sometimes as an employee, I might mess up, but that doesn't mean I don't know what name to use. It doesn't mean I don't have it. I could have faltered, but how do you give me that feedback that would help me want to learn more, that would help me want to grow? How do we put processes in place, systems in place, to make sure we are helping our team understand, I need to learn the process of doing this and actually practically implement the same? Because if you don't apply it practically, then it becomes theory and you're not able to learn. The things we are talking about here, we talk about here on this podcast, if we don't implement them in our businesses, then it becomes another theory and it becomes very theoretical and is not very helpful. So I think there's a lot of things we can do, Anthony, to just
Yes.
improve the way we learn and grow.
Wow, wow, wow. This is a very deep product. If you're listening to us, you are an entrepreneur, you're a manager, you are running a team, you are a business owner. This is it, guys. We train people. Zippy has discussed something there very deep. In fact, I must repeat it about career mapping. For you, if you're a business person, you are an entrepreneur, you are the CEO, you're a senior manager, people, you're being asked, you're being put to task because people are leaving your department and you're wondering why do they keep leaving. Zippy has said something very powerful, that career mapping is very important for companies who are aiming to retain staff. And in this, as she has said, and I've seen it, I've sat in the recruitment places. Martha, you've sat in recruitment tables, same with you, Dorin. And you look at somebody wondering, why are you coming? I mean, why are you leaving this company? I mean, you have a good job, your paycheck, the pay that you're saying you're earning looks very delicious. The responsibilities also look like they're very stimulating. So why are you? And somebody tells you, I just want to grow. I feel I'm stuck, and you're wondering, you're stuck in such a company. How? Now, Zippy, you've brought something very powerful: career mapping. That is something that does not take place in that particular institution. And I want to tell people listening to us, if you'd like to know more about this and want to integrate, you want to understand this better, this is something that we at Aurum Consultants would love to help you with these and other functions, so that you can retain your people. You don't bring them, you pay them good money, and then after 1 2 years they are leaving, and then you're wondering, oh, it was Generation Z. It is not Generation Z. Even Generation B and C could still leave. They'll still leave if they feel they're just mark timing. I thought to add that, even as I ask Martha, what's your take on this issue of improving employee learning and growth?
Tony should have been a HR expert.
Kujenga na osmosis, mazi.
So yeah, I totally agree with Zippy. What I can say, Tony, is most people think money and more money is motivating staff.
Yeah, that's true.
And over the years, I have learned the motivation for money, when you're motivated by money, once you receive your new salary end of that month,
Yes.
the, the following month, the energy goes.
Gone. Yeah,
I
gone.
think,
Yes, that's
I
true.
think things rise as we get more money.
Mm.
And you will find someone who is earning very good salary in an organization, leaving to go to another organization. And you wonder why. And it's because they feel stagnant. So the money is coming, but this organization doesn't train. You're just working. You're not acquiring new knowledge. And no one is even encouraging you to. So for me, for you to really, what we need to do in this idea of training is to encourage training. And how can an organization do that? Is one of the things we can do is foster a culture of training. And we need to kind of have this in our strategy. We are a learning organization.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, you can do various things. Um, you can even put it for the managers, that your employees, when you are doing appraisal, one of the things we are going to appraise is their personal development plans. So when that is put in appraisal, like in my former employment, we knew that you must do something every year. And Zippy can tell you, I was always in school because every year I have to account for what they were doing. And it was a great organization, because then they even used to give tuition assistance, so that you have no reason why you did not go to
To
school.
train.
And then in addition to that, various other trainings, and even the organization had put an academy online. Were all courses of the things we did in the organization. So there was finance for non-finance managers. There was HR for non-HR managers. There was various kind of programs for non-program people. So like for me, I even have done project management, and I'm not in the project and in ops. So that organization, that is how it has encouraged training in the organization. They are so sensitive to a point that we had to account it one of the scores that I will score in my personal appraisal. So it had to have a score. And you know, our scores were adding up to salary increment.
Oh.
The higher your scores, so that is how that organization had done it. And you know, not all organizations can afford that. So there could be various ways. We can say
Yes.
that our organization fosters a culture of coaching. And then, so we ensure every manager, when we are doing your appraisal, you will
Yes.
also appraise you on, have you at least coached one person this year who can take over from you? So if you intricate that as a culture, so
Yes.
how you kind of make people accountable. That's why you are bringing it at the appraisal level. But you'll find as you go on, people pick it up, and it
Yes.
doesn't have to be an appraisal anymore. It becomes a culture that for me, I must quote someone. I have to bring up someone. Um, the other thing you can do is, like Zippy was saying, is this communication on the growth path of someone. So
Yes.
once you have various communications, you'll be able to know how to be able to manage the training of that person. Because you don't want them to leave you. You want to manage them to be all they can be in the organization. My
Yes.
current employer is a very dynamic organization where we embrace talent, we embrace initiative, we embrace creativity. So you are not really, you are not structured just to fit the job that you are employed for. If you came here and you explode to other things, you are welcome. And so when you have such a culture, if I came here and I find, oh, I can do other things, I'll quickly want to learn those other things. I will ensure that there's a lot of on-job training going on, so that I also learn, so that I'm not narrowed to this
Yes.
HR role that I'm doing. I can I can expand. We even have business. I was not a business person, but these days I feel like I'm talking business.
Yes.
I never knew about business development. These days, I am part of the business development and even writing proposals for business. So these are
Wow.
things that I didn't know when I came. But the organization has put, uh, this is a way that they have done to ensure that people are learning. Because you have all these opportunities, but if you don't learn, you will not be able to do the various opportunities. You will just concentrate on your role. Yet your
Yes.
organization is dynamic. It has various things that you can venture into, so that you don't get bored in the organization. And I can tell you, by the way, our um, our turnover ratio is very low. You'll just find turnover when projects are ending, and then people have to go, not because they were going because they are resigning. They are going because the project has ended. So you will come here and find people who have worked even for 20 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it has
Wow.
been 1 year contract, 1 year contract. But we have people who are here 20 years. Why? It's because you're happy, because you're not just centered on one thing, your mind is working. you're feeling useful to the organization.
Mm.
So those are the small things we can do, the communication, and then also to put people accountable by putting them in the performance appraisal.
Yes.
The area, you don't just do performance appraisal for the skills and the values, you also
Yes.
add personal development.
Mm.
And then now, you, even if you cannot afford to pay for school, like my previous organization, you can have a policy that you will give study leave.
Mm.
So when you're reading, even if you're paying for yourself, when you're going to do exams, then the organization can meet you there. That instead
Mm.
of taking your leave, you can have some study leave to go do to go do your exams, to
Yes.
sort you out in whatever venture that you have done for training. Those people, by the way, those things, small things, they encourage people. So when you have a policy that has study leave, what does that tell you? That the organization is expecting that you're going to
Study.
school. So you feel pressured when you're hearing your colleagues are going for study leave and you are not going. Believe you me, you will do something about it. So
Come
I
on.
have to leave there because I know Dorin has new things which she can bring to this forum. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Martha, those are very wonderful gems. Indeed, you've made me go back to the employer we were talking about study leave. Yeah, you'd see some guys have gone study leave, they have come, and you were supposed to bring the certificate. Eh? See, yet,
Yeah, and
you
you
do not
make
go
sure they
to,
bring the
you don't go to,
certificate. Yes,
you don't go to
yes.
graze goats and then pretend. No, you bring back a certificate to show you actually achieved what you did, and that put pressure. So sometimes you would even fund yourself. You look for money, fund yourself, go, come back. You have your certificate. You've gotten your study leave. You have, and then you want to progress. And there's still organizations that do that. Huh? But Doreen, from your end,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to. I'm using you as the example of being at the sharp end of the HR work. Eh? Yeah, issues regarding how do you improve the learning and growth from your experience, what you have seen, employee learning and growth.
Okay. Thank you so much. To improve an employee's learning and growth, it's more or less what Zipporah pointed out. The first thing is career mapping. And maybe to add on to that, you cannot just career map for an employee blindly. You need to involve the staff.
Mhm.
Number one, there needs to be constant communication. You're
Yes,
telling the employee, in the next 2, 3 years, I see you have potential. This is my vision for you. Can you see
yes,
it? You plan for
mm,
them. You don't even plan for them, actually. You plan with them with
yes,
constant communication. The good thing with continuous learning and growth is that
yes,
you don't necessarily have to go to, as Martha pointed it out, because there is particular organizations that don't give study leave per se, especially the
yes.
private institutions.
Mm.
So there's something called on-the-job training,
Mm-hmm.
and most organizations have really embraced it. So, for instance, you'll find there's institutions, and maybe perhaps where I work, we take an intern, we train them, we take them through the whole process of training, and it's on the job training, where it's not just training, theoretically. You are being trained and you are applying the skills on the job.
Yes,
So this training, you will be able to use it as you're learning, as you're growing, and with time, you will find that an intern has been absorbed. They become a full-time employee. They grow into a managerial role, and sooner or later, they become maybe a CEO or a manager. And it's all because an institution has invested in on-the-job training.
yes,
Yeah. Um, as much as we are doing this on the job training to be able
mm,
to help the employee to learn, to grow, and to apply these skills that we are training them, these experiences, we cannot just train them blindly, as I said earlier. We must be matching. that whatever they are learning on the job, it's according to what they are, what we are projecting for them in their career. And as much as we are projecting and they are learning these skills on the job, bottom line is we must give feedback. Feedback, and it must be regular and constructive feedback. There is those that we can give feedback, and others, the way you give your feedback, it becomes so negative. The employee becomes demoralized, they are not able to work, anaona huyu manager ananiingililia. So the feedback that we are giving this staff will help them to grow, to learn. They will build and learn on the mistakes that they have made prior.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the end of it all, it will be such a great investment that, you'll be so shocked that this employee had so much potential. You will not even look back and say the training was not a proper investment. Yeah.
And Tony,
Wow.
let me add something. And
Yes, Maka.
this is the strength maybe of Aurum consultants.
Yes.
They you find you are thrown in the limelight, like. So we at Aurum, we have no reason but to read, because
Yes.
we have to be specialists for specialists. So when you know that there is that active, no one is telling you, but there is active, let me use that word, fostering of a learning culture. Because there will be expectations from you that will be expected by your bosses. You have to go to school and learn.
Yes.
You can't come to a podcast like this and just appear. So there are those organizations that put people, like, you find yourself, oh, Martha, you can do this, do. So that is pressure, but it's positive pressure. Because then it makes me rise up to the occasion and learn. So I have not been told by anyone, but I've been thrown to the woods and I have to deliver. I have to deliver. And that's, for me, that's one of the strengths in Aurum consultants and in other organizations, because then you may not have money to pay for people to do things, but you can give them opportunities. I've had Zippy saying she would want to leave everything and play golf. So if it will not surprise me to see Dorin here, because then one of these days Zippy will just decide, I want to play golf, but I want the podcast to continue. So you throw someone into woods, and what are they going to do? They'll start reading and learning. And that's how you become an expert in your area, because then you dig a lot. You also see what other organizations are doing. So for your particular organization you're doing, you have a comparator organization, especially those you are losing your staff to. What is this extra thing they are doing that are making our staff leave and go to them?
To that other place, yes.
Yeah. So you see, you have to check what your comparator organizations are doing to match up, because you don't want to lose your best staff to go to the other people just because you couldn't train. And what I have learned about that on-job training, which I call coaching myself, is that because you are learning on the job, you become even better than someone who went to school.
That's true.
I don't know whether you guys have found out that, yeah? Because those things you are doing, then you are left to do tomorrow. And you do now by yourself. And all you are doing now is referring to this person who has been training you. That's really coaching. So it's not telling what you should do. It's to learn as you work. And then when you are stuck, you go, you consult. You are not told what to do. You are just kind of evaluated on options. and you apply and you see, oh, it worked, you will never forget that thing.
True.
And then
True.
now, then expectations should be put on you also to develop someone else. So it means
Mhm.
then that learning culture, on job training, coaching is in the organization, and there's nothing much you paid for it, but really people are learning. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Yani, just two questions have taken us to 45 minutes. Telling you how deep this, how I remember last week I warned our viewers and our listeners that this topic will take us through April and May, especially for business, because this is a very wide, very needy, very deep topic that we can talk and look from all manner of facets, look at from different angles, from the angle of the employer, angle of the employee today. We've talked about just about this improving employee learning, the learning organization. I used to hear that term and I wonder what is that. Now today Martha has brought it to us. There's something to do with personal development, personal development plan, where if you're not grooming somebody else, again, it reduces you as the manager, your points go lower because you did not groom somebody deliberately. And then there is something about fostering a culture of coaching. Yes, for those of us who are managers, you've got to foster a culture of coaching. Initially, as Martha said it on the appraisal, but then with time it becomes like culture where now we automatically pick up and run with it. And then Dorin, you've talked about giving construction, give as managers we need to give constructive feedback to the employees as we train them so as not to discourage them. Ladies, this is deep. We have just barely scratched the surface of this particular topic, but our time is really gone. And I know being an Easter weekend, our viewers, our listeners, and all that have planned whatever they need to plan. So today we have stolen, not stolen, we have taken a break about like 45 minutes of your time as you celebrate the death and the resurrection of Christ. You're also thinking of next week. Next week, when after Easter Monday, how are you going to prepare your staff for training? How are you going to spend? You've been asked. We need to train, a certain department, and you're the boss. You're the financial guy in the seated there, looking at the figures and wondering him about training. Kurendaje. Now you have heard why we do training, why we have that training budget, why we need to foster the culture of training, why we need to foster the culture of training and development. If you want to retain the best, they cannot remain stagnant. Their minds are, they are working hard. And therefore, we look forward to doing this next week, same time, same place, where we can discuss more and even deeper facets of training and development. But we want to thank you, Martha. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Doreen. You've joined us for the first time. Dorin is one of our staff here at Aurum Consultants, and we're so glad that you could join us. And obviously, our lead consultant, Zippy, thank you for the thought leadership on this particular matter. And we want to thank you, the viewers and listeners. If you would like to get in touch with us, our contacts are at the bottom of the screen via Facebook, via YouTube, via LinkedIn, via our website, even phone and emails. They're all down there. Kindly get in touch with us if you'd like to know more about training. We offer training as Aurum consultants. We give training to entities and companies to enable them train their staff in the various areas that they will need to come in. So if you're out there and you'd like to train your staff on certain areas, for example, HR for non-HR managers or finance for non-finance managers and others. These ones, we have them available within our consultants. Kindly get in touch with us. Ladies, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to host us on this Easter weekend. I want to wish you, not a Merry Christmas, a Merry Easter. Yeah, Merry Easter. A Merry Easter. Yeah, commemorate the death and resurrection of Christ in a solemn yet joyous manner. Resurrection Sunday, we'll be celebrating his resurrection. So kindly take care. Let us see each other next week, same time, same place. But remember, training your staff may be an expense, but it's a tremendous investment. Yes, don't look at it like you're putting money in a drain. You are investing in them, you're investing in your own company. So thank you very much. God bless you. Take care.